everyone. Welcome. I'm Ashley Hotham Cox. I'm the editor-in-chief of Charlotte Home Design and Decor magazine out of Charlotte, North Carolina. And I have the privilege of being here with two creative geniuses, creative director Dara Caponigro of the iconic textile house Schumacher, and interior design maven Barrie Benson. It's a total thrill. Thank you everyone for joining us today as we're going to be discussing the limitless possibilities of decorating and how to find your personal style. Everyone has a story, so let's start with a little background from each of you. And how did you get to be where you are today? Dara, would you mind starting?
Sure. So, well, I'm the creative director of Schumacher, as you said, but it happened very much by accident. I started as the magazine editor. So my first job was at House Beautiful, and then I went to Decor, and then I was one of the founding editors of Domino. And then I became the editor-in-chief of Veranda. And after about 3 years at Veranda, I don't know, became a little bit disenchanted with my job there. And I quit out of the blue. And I came home that day and I said to my husband, I quit my job. And he said, what? I said, I quit my job. I mean, literally, just the words blurted out of my mouth. And I don't know, I thought I would take some time off. You know, I was a working woman my whole career. I'd never had a reprieve of any kind. And I thought, well, you know, I'll finally get my house decorated. I'll spend time with my kids. I was really looking forward to it. But then I got a call from Schumacher, and I thought they were just calling to wish me well, but instead they offered me this job as the creative director. And it was just too good to be true. I couldn't let it go. You know, it was this storied brand that had been founded in 1889, and it had all this incredible potential, and I was too excited not to take it. And so here I am.
That's awesome. Barrie, what about you?
I did not think when going into college I was going to end up in design. I was history major, thinking I might go to graduate school, teach, I don't know, and have always had a creative part of my that was already always part of what I wanted. And I was a studio art major at Furman, and I saw a foreign study program in Italy through Georgia that offered interior design, and I thought, you know, that's what I really want to do. Let me try it. And after that, I never stopped. I started working for Hirschbedner, which was a hospitality design firm that did hotels out of the country and in the country for hotel groups like Four Seasons and Ritz-Carlton, and loved that. But I would draw for about 10 months of the year and then decorate for 2 months. And I realized that the decorating part I loved. And don't get me wrong, I still draw a ton, but definitely I wanted to get more involved in the design area, the decorating part, and started doing work for some of my friends' older sisters and brothers, and had a side business while working 80 hours a week. I think it was a little bit crazy. So I decided to start my own business in 1998, and with a brief stint teaching in Italy for the same program that I started at University of Georgia way back when. And then moved to Charlotte to be with my husband, who is an architect, and started more interior design work, and have been doing that ever since. And I guess, you know, add lots of small little commercial projects, plus design some furniture for Highland House, and also work with Dara on Peg Norris, which is our new, I've launched a new small company with Chandra Johnson, SoCo Gallery owner, and to do an artist collaboration with Schumacher. And so here we are.
Which is behind you right now, one of your wallpapers. And I couldn't be more thrilled. So I met Barrie when I was at Domino. She was our cover girl 1 month. And I'm so glad I met her, and our relationship is still going strong, and we're still working together. So that's really fun. So fun for me. When I tried to woo her over with Peg Norris, her wallpaper company, I was like, please say yes, please say yes. And now I'm so happy I get to work with her still. So that's fun.
And I was on the other side going, can you believe she wants us she wants Schumacher to take it on. It was about one of my favorite days in the last 10 years. So I felt the same bit of giddiness.
Well, it's awesome to
thrilled
have
to be with you.
all of this collaboration. It's so fun. I mean, I'm from Charlotte, but I was in New York. Seems forever ago, only 4 years ago. But I met Dara when I was working under Tori Malott. Schumacher's now style director. And when I was working under her, I think it was one of Miles Red's like launch at the D&D building. But anyway, it was the first time I got to meet you. And then, also alongside Tori, she was constantly talking about Barrie Benson, how much she loved your style and your fashion sense. And, just to be back in Charlotte, my hometown, and still an editorial, it's a thrill, to still be connected, in the industry and in New York. And so it's so much fun. I love that we're all here together. And I appreciate y'all taking the time. I know that our readers, our followers are just excited to hear more about you two. And, we're on the heels of Dara's newest book, S is for Style, and which is kind of, the launching pad reason for this webinar, finding your style, because, that's what we're all trying to figure out. Style is, it comes easier for others, for some other rather than others. And anyway, so I don't know if you picked up your copy or not, but I implore you to do so. It's an amazing book. There's 3 covers to choose from, and Barrie has the same one that I do.
I actually have a couple different ones. I have them throughout the office.
It's amazing. I mean, it's not just a book, it's a guide. It's an inspiring guide, broken into 16 thematic chapters, whether it's preppy or opulent, unconventional, trad with a twist. It speaks to so many different tastes. And I think it's really fun and different in that each chapter starts off with kind of, like a fun introduction of description of what that style kind of entails. And then here are the main ingredients, guts, whimsy. I love under Trad with a Twist, a desire to be different, but not revolutionary, and then, so it's just a really fun book. And so, but what I think stood out to me, Dara, is when you described it as not being a be all end all manual, rather it's, provides guidance into identifying what beauty is to you, which, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. So I want to kind of ask both of you, how would you describe your style, and has it evolved over the years, and do you anticipate it changing, if at all? Dara, would you start?
Sure. So my style has definitely changed. It's morphed, I would say. So, I grew up in a Joseph Eichler house. He built a lot of houses in California, and then he built 3 houses in the Northeast, and they're California houses. He did most of his work out there. 1 story, very modern relationship to the inside and the outside, lots of glass doors, very clean, open floor plan. So that's kind of what I knew. And my mom is a decorator. I mean, she doesn't decorate anymore, but, she really informed my sensibility. So I grew up with a lot of beautiful modern things, she invested in things that are now collectible. They weren't then, but they were beautiful things. I have a Paul Kierholm table and chairs. So he was a famous Danish designer. I have these, a lot of pieces from Knoll that were original. But so I was exposed to that from an early age. And then after college, when I worked at House Beautiful, it was the middle of the 1980s. Nothing modern was happening at all. And I felt a little bit like a fish out of water. But one of the things that was really great is I was exposed to all this wonderful stuff. So I knew Mario Bawada and Mark Hampton and, all the greats, Albert Hadley. And I got exposed to all those different styles, which in a way was difficult because, you know, I would leave a shoot and I'd be like, oh my God, I want my house to be just like that. And then I'd go to another shoot and I'd be like, no, I want my house to look just like that. So it was very confusing, but I think what came out of it is like a real love for all kinds of design and a kind of like a passion for authenticity, I think. So like my current house now is a Georgian style house, and my Paul Cure home table and chairs doesn't fit in here at all. Like no matter how hard I try, it doesn't really work, but I do have modern things thrown in. More traditional, but the modernity comes through my minimalism. So I have traditional things, but I use them in a very spare way. So to me, that feels like consistent with who I was, but I have more of an appreciation for antiques and things like that. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And I would say from the evolution of my own style, I think, you know, buying my first house, and actually, I mean, I think that my house was directly inspired by an Eichler house. I'm sure he was looking at that when if you probably would guess, Dara seeing my house is definitely a Japanese modern. But when I first moved in, you know, I didn't have a lot of furniture. We didn't have a lot of furniture. So a lot of it, you know, I was having some interest, you know, I was focusing more on the wall coverings and some pops of color. And I think that's where I tried to like, and I also had some pieces of furniture that I brought, that both my husband and I brought with us. And and I knew we didn't have the money to redo everything. So, you know, I focused more on the color and the fabrics and the wall color, because you can paint a room and make a huge impact. And then lacquer some furniture that was a little old but looked a little bit better with a new can of paint on it. But as I've evolved with my house, I feel like now that I'm buying investment pieces and mixing them in, I don't want to get rid of the things that I started with, because I think that is, you know, that creates the authenticity you're talking about, Dara. It's just, you know, those things, you know, they have a story. They were with you, you know, with your first kids. Your kids bump their head on the corner of that chair, that, you know, the coffee table. I do think those things make you feel familiar. I mean, I might change them, or you get tired of them and then you think you reimagine them in a totally different room. And I think that's what's been happening. But I've noticed as I've gotten a little older, I'm taking a little bit more color out as I get better pieces of furniture that I finally get. I mean, I just got my dining room chairs that I've been wanting forever. And I finally pulled the trigger on them when I was home for about 4 months during COVID. I thought, enough is enough. I'm not those Chippendale chairs that I had painted for the domino shoot where I met Dara. They had to go. They were so chipped. I thought, I've got to get these out of here. And
I'm dying to see your new chairs.
I know. I'll show them. They're Wormley chairs with a natural colored Wormley chair, no color, just sort of blends into the sideboard. But I think that's, you know, it's evolving. You start investing in pieces, and the scale of your house, the scale of the furniture, your color palette can get a little bit more neutral and a little bit more minimal, because you want some of these pieces to stand out, and they can. But in the beginning, I feel like color was really important, where I'm just sort of backing up a little bit.
But I think what we're both saying is that it's a process, right? I mean, I think the best rooms are a process, and the best projects. It's like very hard to, I mean, you can do it all at once and that's amazing. But sometimes I think the better way to go about it is to not do it all at once and to kind of like slowly let it develop.
Yeah, absolutely. Are we seeing some of the images from the book?
And I also feel like designers can sort of, you know, be detectives in people's homes and their lives, so they can, you know, if you do want to have, if you're the type that has to have the house all done, you know, that's where you're hiring professionals to really dig deep about who you're about and what you love, so you can get some of these rooms together instead of taking 15 years like I did.
So this is your breakfast room, Barrie, which I've loved. So this is from our domino sheet. So when did we do this?
So I feel like this like 2009, because my son is going to college and he's 6'5". The one that's lying down on the sofa would fill up the whole entire length of that banquette right now, which he still does.
It's such a fresh take though. Like I've always been so enamored with this room because somehow you've managed to mix like a very classic modern settee with these like kind of exuberant, crazy, this is a Schumacher pattern called Chiang Mai Dragon. It's one of our most popular patterns. Like I never would have thought to put that together. And then you have kind of a traditional light fixtures, but yet I don't know, it's a wonderful yin yang, I think, that's so hard to achieve.
Well, thank you. And I think where it came from, it was that the days of you wanted to have a little sitting room off your kitchen because you wanted to watch your kids. When you were making dinner, you wanted to have someone, right? You wanted to have your kids around. So I was thinking, or if you're cooking dinner and your friends are there, like how can you have both but still have it be part of the kitchen? And my husband was adamant that we did not want a sitting room off of our kitchen because he thinks that you needed a separation of state. And so I think that's where it came from. The whole idea was I wanted a banquette. I wanted chairs, that Chiang Mai Dragon. I remember my grandmother having that her outdoor furniture vinylized. And I thought, kids are going to ruin it. So what if I could wipe it off? I had to sign the whole fabric's life away to be able to put the vinyl on it because they said they weren't responsible if they messed it up, which at the time was a big deal because that fabric is not that inexpensive. But it's still there. I think it's about to change to another Schumacher. That's what we have going. But that was the whole idea of the room.
That was so clever. Yeah. Yeah. And this is your bedroom with your work dog.
Yeah, so this was, you had charged us with doing a room that using some of this was a Schumacher idea that she was like, so would you love to, we have this new Frank Lloyd Wright fabrics that we've recolored, and I would love if you would consider redoing a room in your house with it. And so we chose the master bedroom, and this was, I just thought this was really fun. My husband's an architect. The house is very architectural, especially in this back master bedroom with all the peaks and windows. And it was really fun to play with all the fabrics. And the dog definitely sat for it.
So these are both in the tradition with a twist chapter, which I think your work really speaks to.
Well, thank you. And I think this was another one of those things.
When you look on the left, you see the pink velvet sofa. Sorry, go ahead.
No, you go ahead. Sorry, you froze for it. I didn't know if you wanted me to speak, but I would love for you.
Yeah, no, I do. But I'm always I think it's so cool. So you have the Jean-Michel Franck style chairs with a pink velvet sofa and a fringe, kind of a fancy fringe, with a Moroccan style rug. And then on the left, you have the Decor wallpaper with Prouvé furniture. I think it's Prouvé. Crazy great mix.
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, it was, both of these are client personality and very authentic. On the Prouvé side, it's Laura Vinroot and Perry Poole. Her husband, Laura owns a fabulous women's shop. She knows her style. If anybody has so much, she has just amazing sense of style, and her husband is a very serious furniture collector and also architect. And I think, there was so much of this furniture, but I wanted to make sure that she had sort of she was representative, and this was the perfect way to do it. And the only way we can convince Perry to do it is if we sort of did it in a modern way. And so it was a great collaboration, figuring out how to make this feel modern and warm at the same time. And, a lot of times I didn't know if it would work, but this was, I think this is 2006. This was a long, long time ago. So it was a cool room, and you didn't see much of this you didn't see much of the Degournay going up, especially in a modern house. I love it still.
And this is Chandra Johnson's house, correct?
Correct. And again, the same thing, you know, it's this very, the house is very traditional. It, we had, you know, the Venetian, she found in the Venetian chandelier, she found in Paris, the Jansen chairs, which, you know, they're transitional. They can go modern in a modern way. They can go in a modern environment, and then they can also go in a very traditional one. And then she brings in the Donald Judd, and since she's a gallerist, she has so many artists at her not disposal, but at, you know, just around her. And Damian Stamer did this amazing installation, I mean, painting on the ceiling, as if you were looking up through the trees. If you were eating dinner, you looked up through the trees, and that was the inspiration. So I just think all of these things sort of balance each other and play off one another, but still work.
Yeah, Barrie, you're so good about mixing, you know, you take a traditional setting and then you modernize it, and then vice versa. You take a modern structure and you employ traditional elements, you know. It's really interesting to see the versatility in your portfolio. I guess my question is, like, you know, how do you employ your signature look without overpowering that of the clients? And it's, I mean, because that's exactly what you do. Like, I mean, every single one of these has so much different personality to it. And I wouldn't be able to, like, say, like, that's distinctly Barrie Benson, you know, comparing, like, without knowing, you know, Laura Vanderpool's dining room versus Chandra Johnson's. They're so different. What's your...
Well, first of all, those two women have tons, you know, so much style. So it's sometimes you're looking for that. You're trying to pull things out of those clients. They have so much style that it's just pretty easy to do, because they're collaborating. They're offering a ton of, you know, inspiration and also comments about it. And it's also about the balance. Sort of, you know, you have this one really modern painting or Donald Judd piece, and how do you bring it into a modern, I mean, a traditional dining room? And that was the case. Like the dining room needed something modern, because she, you know, to represent, and that Donald Judd piece was just exactly, I didn't have much to do with that. She found that. So, and that's the key to it. And, but just making sure it's balanced. I think you always have to have, I always think of like people at a dinner party, you have to have like someone talking to each other. You have to have a modern Donald Judd piece talking to the modern ceiling. You have to have a traditional piece talking, you know, just so there's somebody there. You can't just like throw one thing in and have it work. You have to sort of have a balance.
I like that analogy. It's good. So Schumacher, as you both know, it's unique in its diverse portfolio and how its offerings are appealing to many people with different tastes. In the book, Dara shares that when you were sorting through images to include, that you were struck by how the same product could look completely distinct in different hands. Can you elaborate, like, on an instance of this?
Yeah, sure. I mean, the one that comes to mind the most is a pattern that Celery Kemble designed for us called Feather Bloom, and it's a big overscale kind of abstract floral that's printed on texture, and it's for the walls. And it was so interesting. Like, in some cases, there were rooms that felt like really happy and exuberant, and in other rooms it was very glamorous, and then in other rooms it felt laid back. And I think it really speaks to the power of interior designers. You know, I mean, what I love is, you know, they're creative geniuses, so they can really like take things and make it their own, and or you know, help their clients make it their own. So I think, I mean, it was fabulous to see, really. Just, it's almost like, I often wonder about shoes. Like, there's so many different kinds of shoes. Like, how is it possible that there could be so many unique iterations of the same thing? And yet there are. People keep coming up with shoe designs in a different way to think of that form and that function. So it's really fun to see our product used really well. These are actually from the Exuberant chapter, and I think they are so exuberant. The pattern on the right was, I mean, I have a funny story actually. When I was at Veranda, we had this program where I would go into companies' archives, people who had like really longstanding histories, whether it was a China company or a fabric company or whatever, and I would select something from the archive to be brought back into, to the modern world. So this was, I think it must have been like 2010, and I went to Schumacher. Their archive back then was in Wilmington, Delaware, and I saw this incredible pattern. It was this pattern on the right, that was designed in 1947 by the famous architect and textile designer named Joseph Frank. I'm sure all of you guys know that, know who he is. And he has this warmth and modernity to his work, but it's so joyous and sophisticated at the same time. So I fell in love with it, but the powers, that the head honcho at Schumacher didn't want to bring it back. So we did a toile instead, which was also really beautiful. But the day I arrived at Schumacher, I was assigned the 125th anniversary collection. And so this was the first thing that I thought of. And it is probably our best seller now. It's really, people just really respond to it.
Well, I was joking earlier before we got online. I said, everybody loves this fabric, and I've used it. So many people have used it, and I thought, you know what? I don't know if I can see it again. And then I opened a page. I don't know where it was, but Jeffrey Billhuber had put it in this tiny little bar and turned a little closet into a bar, and it, fresh green shells, and then this citrus garden. And I thought, there it is again. It looks completely new and fresh. And I think that's one of the beauties of this book, Dara, and also just your talent is your curatorial eye. You've chosen some of the best images of fabrics and style, and shown all the different ways people have done it in a revolutionary way, and then shown old photographs that probably inspired the original fabric or the original designer, but then they did something different with it. And I think that's the key to your own style, is seeing those things and then being inspired and then saying, okay, well, how do I make it work for myself? And like, I love that fabric, I love that palette, but my room is different, my function is different, and I have this other piece of furniture I don't know what to do with. And I think when you start mixing them together and really thinking of it in that way, it can be different.
Yeah, it's true. And I like what you said about I have this, or I already have this, because I think so much of design is really solving a puzzle, right? I mean, if you're not starting from scratch, it's really like finding the pieces that can add something fabulous to a room, but also make the rest of the parts work in harmony. Mm-hmm. It's tough. It's not always easy doing that.
And it's also like when I'm approaching someone's house and they have an inventory of furniture, some people say, I really love this, I love that, I need to use this, it's important to my family. We sort of do an inventory of the furniture and fabric, and it's sort of our challenge to see if we can put it totally different in a different room, different way, so that it does feel fresh. And you don't have to send things, you certainly can send some away that you're just completely tired of, but if it's memorable and it's important to you, I mean, it's our challenge to figure out a new way to do it. And a lot of times that creates a very fresh design.
Yeah, Barrie, on that same topic, you said before, reinventing the wheel is the name of the game. It's all about reinterpretation. So how to make the same product look different. And with that in mind, what's one of your favorite Schumacher wall coverings or fabrics, and how have you used it differently to achieve the different looks?
I mean, of course, Chiang Mai Dragon is one of my favorites, but I've had it on my chairs for so long. But I mean, there's so many of them. And I think especially like Dara recoloring things, and they feel so different when they're recolored. And I think Schumacher is doing such a good job of changing that. I mean, I could not even begin to say what my favorite, well, I could do a little plug for Peg Norris. Jackie Gendell's Steps is, we've just put it in the, Jackie Gendell has an opening at SoCo Gallery now, and and the girls, Shani and her team, decided that it would be awesome to wallpaper the entire studio and then hang Jackie's paintings on top of it. And it is the most magical opening. I mean, the gallery space right now to see her things. And after seeing it up, I just thought, okay, it's going to be in my bedroom. So you'll see it in my bedroom soon.
That's exciting.
Cool.
So as we all know, decorating is not cheap. What would your advice be to someone who isn't sure where to start on their personal interiors project?
So for me or Dara?
Let's go with Barrie.
Well, I think it's sort of like going back to what I said about when I started my house. I do think, take an inventory of all your furniture. Also look at your rooms and the scale of the rooms. What do you think you're going to be doing in these different rooms? Try to imagine some of these pieces, even if you're not a huge fan of them, since you have to sort of be a little bit frivolous in buying new things. Decide where they could be and feel different and not so staid. And then, if it's a family room, look at, and it doesn't get a great light source and you're going to be there at night, and think of, investing in some very comfortable pieces of furniture with some workhorse fabrics on, like some of your performance fabrics at Schumacher. I mean, like get some of the bones in and assign, sort of imagine all the things you're going to do in each room. And so for this one that's popping up right now, we knew that was not, it didn't get great light. We knew that it's going to be a nighttime room. This is where you have cocktails. This is where you have people retire to after dinner. It's not where you go to read your paper in the morning. I mean, maybe you do, but we sort of went for it to be cozy and dark. And I think, they have the liberty of doing that because they have multiple rooms, but if it doesn't get too great a light, just go ahead and go dark with it and make it cozy, make it your family room. And same, with the opposites, just a morning room, have fresh and light, invest in wallpaper if you don't have great furniture, just to really create the design.
Yeah, and I just want to add that I think it's so important to collect as many images as possible, and to kind of keep going back to them and make sure that they resonate, because it is so expensive to decorate. And so I think it's really important to kind of like have a bulletin board or an Instagram feed or however you like to collect imagery, and sit with it and look at it and look at it and look at it until you feel like, because it's easy to get what do you call it, seduced by like the next big thing or whatever. And I think you have to like almost force yourself to know yourself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I also think it's really important to have a trusted friend that has a really good sense of their own style and knows you well, because I think sometimes even for my own house, I have to bring someone in and say, I need a little help. I mean, they can sort of have a little elevation on the way you use your house and your style better than you do sometimes, and remind you, like, this doesn't seem like you. It seems like you're just, you went to Hawaii and you loved your hotel and you're trying to recreate your your experience in Hawaii rather than really doing something that looks like you. So
that's good advice. I mean, I'd say, and Dara, I'm sure you say the same as a former editor, but every editor needs an editor. Likewise, I feel like every designer needs input from another designer, or design lover at least.
Yeah, doing your own place is the hardest, I think.
I would like to hire Dara to do my house.
I would like to hire Barrie to do my house.
I'm sure you're not very busy.
I'll have you both. This right here, what we're seeing, was probably my most recent obsession. It's in the unconventional chapter of the book. And what was it that was said? I have to pull it up, but it's Johnson Hardig. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
But what you were just saying, Dara, it's your style if the second something trends, it's dead to you. You relish the fine line between kitchen style, and you always pull off the latter. It's I mean, like, this is just outrageous, and it's so fun. And it's like, I guess my question is, like, I resonate to this. This speaks to me, but like, I don't check off any of the boxes at all. You know, what would you say to, like,
Would you decorate your house like that?
I wouldn't say no.
Okay.
But you know, like, I just don't think like I live on the edge, like, you know, in the ingredients chapter, or if it's, you know, the questionnaire boxes.
Yeah.
So,
Well, this is Johnson's house, as you mentioned, and he owns the fashion label Libertine. And he's one of the most creative people I've ever met in my life. I mean, he just has like his excitement and I don't know where his ideas come from, but they are really incredible. And he's a fashion designer, but he really does love decorating and understands decorating and has a great wealth of knowledge about the decorative world. So, like, I think this stuff is sensational, but I'm not sure I could live this way, but I think it's amazing, amazing.
I mean, I look at this, I think I'm creative, and I look at this and I'm like, my mind is blown. And also, I mean, it's so amazing. And, you know, people could try to replicate this. It would be a really hard thing to replicate, but you could certainly, you know, draw inspiration from it and make it your own. But it's so interesting. And so I feel like I knew his personality looking at these two things, and I've never met him.
Yeah, it's very personal, but you know, like this tiger velvet that's on the sofa, it is selling like hotcakes. You would think it would be too crazy for people, but people love it.
yeah.
I love it. And it's silk velvet. It's got this beautiful sheen. It's really special. I think it's like it's out there, but because he knows so much about the world of decorating, it's relatable somehow. Like, it connects to what we all know. And so it's not that crazy in the end.
I mean, it
I
definitely
like that wallpaper. Yeah, the wallpaper, that's the blue and white platters behind, you know, on the backsplash. So it's blue and white platter wallpaper, and then he hung his blue and white platters on top of it. It's so fun.
So fun.
Really fun.
So, Dara, what chapter or chapters do you most identify within the book?
Well, personally, probably the sensual and spare chapter, which is sort of what I was talking about. You know, it's like I express my modernism, my love of modernism through editing. But sometimes I think, God, that's so boring. I really want to be a trad with a twist person, or why can't I live like so I don't know, but I think because I work with pattern all day and color all day, that basically at home I keep it pretty serene. But sometimes I'm like, God, I just want to go for it, but I don't.
You get to it work. Dara, I came across an interview you did maybe last year, but when you were talking about things you're most proud of during your editorial career, you once talked about Domino and how the magazine really resonated with people and its ability to empower readers to embrace their personal style. Was this at all a driving force for S's for Style and your vision for Schumacher's role in the design industry and beyond?
I think so. I mean, I think the book is a little bit Veranda and a little bit Domino. So, you know, it has these big, beautiful rooms, very much like Veranda. You know, we used to run the images so big, and it was beautiful paper. But the Domino part comes in through the stuff you talked about at the beginning, you know, kind of like the cheeky, more fun ways of helping people identify their style and the ingredients to those styles. I mean, personally, like, I love decorating, but I don't think it should be that rarefied. Like, I love the fact that Domino really empowered people to express different, like you didn't have to just be traditional, or you didn't have to just be modern. You could be, a combination of those things, and you could have fun with it, and you could shop high and you could shop low, and feel free to enjoy the just the beauty of it all and put it together as you want to put it together. So having said all that, I mean, I think it's not that easy still. Like, even if you have permission to do it, it's really hard to do it in a skilled way that it doesn't look like a hot mess, which I think is why the book is important, because it kind of gives you guidelines that you can stray from, but at least it gives you like some architecture to work with it. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I feel like, sometimes I'm trying to do like, I don't know, bold choices of mixing, and like I'm inspired by like, Barrie, like a lot of your work where you're just like this mix master. And sometimes I feel like I pull it off, and then like 6 months later I'm like, what, this looks awful, start over. Sometimes I feel like, I don't know what my style is. So is it important, do you think, to decorate within the same style, or is it okay to employ various styles throughout a home?
I mean, I sort of think that, sometimes when you get to that hot mess stage, I mean, I do, even when we install, like everybody likes me to come in, like they know when the installation is going on that they need to get some of the furniture in before I come in and start freaking out, because I do have a momentary freak out period. And you probably experience that too. Any person doing their house are like, I just invested in these 2 pieces. I thought it was going to do it all, and it didn't. But you've got to keep on going because you've invested in it. Stay with it. And you might need to just bring in different pillows or some more connectors to make it work in that room. So don't give up. Just keep, sometimes, I mean, yes, if you're going for a real minimal look, you have to be real careful. But if you are doing that sort of collected, color and mix, sometimes you just need more of a mix, or you need another partner in crime to make it work. So don't give up and change it, just sort of, or maybe move it to another room and make that different. Like you have ways of not, throwing the baby out with the bathwater.
Okay. I've always wanted to do a story. Oops, sorry.
No, keep going.
I've always wanted to do a story where you follow a piece of furniture throughout a house, like how many lives it lives, because anybody in the design business is moving stuff around all the time.
Oh my gosh, you could do one on my the amount of times I move things around. It reminds me of that fabulous book. Was it called The Red Violin, where they followed the violin when, it was like 1,000-year-old violin, and it went through all the families that went through it. It reminds me of that. Sort of cool.
Well, this has been awesome. Thank you both so much.
Thank you, Ashley. So fun, Barrie. It's so fun to be with you too.
Thank you, Ashley. And I'm so amazed, like Charlotte Magazine, what you've done with the magazine. It's been a pleasure to watch how you have evolved the style of that magazine. It really is. It really was part of it. I hate to say, some parts were a hot mess, and it's no longer.
I won't disagree.
I'm sorry if anybody's listening. No. Their feelings hurt, but you've really turned it into a magazine that has become one of Charlotte's, if not Charlotte's best design magazine. So
thank you. I will say, I tell my team that I want this magazine to be the veranda of Charlotte. So it's a work in progress for sure. But I have beautiful predecessors to look at. And most of everything I know has come directly from me being under Tori Malat. I mean, everything she taught me has benefited me in my career, and these pages. I'm so proud of like the work that me and my team have done, and and I keep beating a dead horse, but we wouldn't have a beautiful magazine if it weren't for the incredibly talented designers who keep creating beautiful projects, such as Barrie's work. And everybody else. I mean, Charlotte is a hotbed of just creative genius, and I'm just constantly just floored by like how beautiful and innovative, you know, design is here. And so it's been a total thrill and a privilege, especially me being a Charlottean, you know, to be able to cover things that are important to locals and beyond. So it's been a privilege. I really appreciate it and appreciate y'all's time, and look forward to working more with you.
Well, thank you so much. It was fun, and I applaud you also, and I applaud Charlotte because it's always one of my favorite places to visit, and I'm blown away by the style there. So S is for style, but style is for Charlotte.
And also Tori, she's
Yeah.
one of the most authentic style mavens I know. So
Yeah, she's
just seeing
incredible.
her. She's a good one.
Well, thank you.
Thank y'all.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye.